In 1954, if you looked at Ray Kroc, you wouldn't see a titan of industry. You would see a man running out of time. He was 52 years old. He suffered from diabetes and arthritis. He had already lost his gallbladder and most of his thyroid. While other men his age were planning their retirement, Ray was driving endlessly across the Midwest, hustling to sell paper cups and milkshake mixers. He had mortgaged his house to fund his latest venture. He was drowning in debt. To the outside world, he was just another invisible salesman on the road, a man who had tried and failed. But Ray possessed something dangerous, a terrifying refusal to accept his reality. To understand what happened next, you have to understand America in the mid-50s. The country was undergoing a violent transformation. President Eisenhower had just signed the Federal Aid Highway Act. Asphalt was being poured across the continent like black rivers. The car was no longer just a vehicle. It was a living room on wheels. Suburbs were exploding outward. People were moving faster, living faster. But the restaurant industry was stuck in the past. Slow service, dirty diners, unpredictable food. The country was hungry for something that didn't exist yet. It was waiting for a revolution. Ray Kroc's business was simple. He sold the multi-mixer, a heavy machine that could spin 5 milkshakes at once. Most drive-in restaurants bought one, maybe 2, if they were busy. But one day, a small order sheet crossed Ray's desk. It came from a dusty town in San Bernardino, California. A single restaurant had ordered 8 multi-mixers. Ray did the math. 8 machines meant 40 milkshakes at the exact same time. It was impossible. No restaurant in the world had that kind of volume. He assumed it was a mistake. Or a lie. He bought a plane ticket to California immediately. He needed to see the anomaly with his own eyes. When Ray pulled up to the location at 1398 Northeast Street, he saw a line of people. Not a chaotic crowd, a disciplined line. There were no teenage girls on roller skates delivering food. No jukeboxes, no diverse menu with tacos and barbecue. Just a simple octagonal building. He watched the customers. They walked up to the window, ordered, and walked away with a bag of warm food in 15 seconds. 15 seconds. In 1954, waiting for a burger usually took 30 minutes. Ray stood in the parking lot, mesmerized. He wasn't looking at a restaurant. He was looking at the future. He met the owners, Dick and Mac McDonald, 2 brothers who were tired of the restaurant business chaos. They explained their secret to Ray. They called it the Speedee Service System. Years earlier, they had closed their restaurant for 3 months. They took a piece of chalk and went to a local tennis court. They drew the exact layout of the kitchen on the ground. They made their employees run simulations, moving like dancers, flipping phantom burgers. If 2 workers collided, they redrew the chalk lines. They optimized the movement of every arm and every leg. They customized the equipment, a sauce gun that dispensed the exact amount of ketchup and mustard every single time. They slashed the menu from 25 items down to 9. Burgers, fries, shakes. That was it. The brothers saw a perfect burger stand. Ray Kroc saw a church. He saw a civic center that could exist in every town in America. He saw the Golden Arches, those neon parabolas designed by Dick McDonald. He saw them shining like crosses on top of steeples. He sat down with the brothers and made his pitch. "Franchise this," he said. "Do it for your country." The brothers were hesitant. They were comfortable. They had big houses and Cadillacs. Why risk the headache of expansion? But Ray was relentless. He eventually wore them down. He signed a contract to become their franchising agent. He returned to Illinois with the blueprint for an empire in his briefcase. But a blueprint is not a building. The first few years were a nightmare. Ray launched McDonald's Corporation in 1955. He opened his first store in Des Plaines, Illinois. But when he tried to replicate the system elsewhere, chaos ensued. In California, the brothers monitored him like hawks, refusing to let him change a single detail. In the new franchises, owners went rogue. They added pizza to the menu. They served burnt fries. They sold corn on the cob. The hygiene standards collapsed. Ray was furious. He realized that without absolute control, the brand was worthless. And financially, Ray was bleeding. His deal with the brothers gave him a tiny percentage of the revenue. He was the CEO of a growing chain. But he couldn't afford his own salary. He decided to fight back with standards. He didn't just want good food, he wanted identical food. He codified quality, service, cleanliness, and value. He wrote manuals that were hundreds of pages long. The hamburger patty must weigh exactly 1.6 ounces. The fat content must be 19%. The patty must be 3.875 inches wide. Onions, exactly 1/4 ounce. Pickles, placed so they don't overlap. Fries, they had to be cured in old oil to get that specific taste. He stripped the individuality out of cooking. He turned cooking into manufacturing. Despite the tightening standards, Ray was still broke. The franchise fee was too low. He was on the verge of bankruptcy. Then, he met a financial genius named Harry J. Sonneborn. Sonneborn looked at Ray's books and laughed. He told Ray, "You don't understand your own business. You are not in the burger business. You are in the real estate business." Sonneborn proposed a radical shift. McDonald's would buy the land. They would take out the lease. And then they would sublease the land to the franchisee at a 40% markup. If the franchisee followed the rules, they got to stay. If they broke the rules, Ray didn't just cancel the contract. He evicted them. He owned the dirt they stood on. Overnight, the power dynamic shifted. Ray wasn't just a supplier anymore. He was the landlord. With cash flow secured through real estate, Ray went on the offensive. He hired a young grill man named Fred Turner. Together, they built Hamburger University. This wasn't a joke. It was a training facility in a basement in Illinois. They taught hamburgerology. Degrees were awarded. They stopped looking for wealthy investors who wanted to sit back. They looked for hustlers. They looked for men and women willing to put their life savings on the line and work the grill themselves. Ray built an army of loyalists, people who owed their livelihood to the system. The culture became almost religious. Cleanliness was godliness. By 1961, the tension with the McDonald brothers was unbearable. They hated the corporate beast Ray had created. They hated the scale. Ray hated their lack of ambition. He wanted to go public. He wanted global domination. They just wanted their quiet life in San Bernardino. The inevitable happened. Ray asked for a price. The brothers demanded $2.7 million. Cash. It was a fortune in 1961. Ray screamed. He cursed, but he paid it. However, there was one last detail. The brothers refused to give him the rights to the original location in San Bernardino. They wanted to keep it for themselves. Ray agreed, but he was a vengeful man. After the deal closed, Ray walked out with the name, the trademark, the system. Because the brothers had kept their original restaurant, they were forced to rename it. They called it the Big M. Within weeks, Ray Kroc opened a brand new McDonald's. 1 block away, he used his new financial power to undercut their prices. He used his national marketing to steal their customers. Within a few years, the Big M went out of business. Ray didn't just want to win, he wanted to erase the past. According to legend, there was also a handshake deal for 1% of future royalties. It was never written down. The brothers never saw a dime of it. That handshake would have been worth hundreds of millions of dollars today. With the brothers out of the way, nothing stopped the machine. The 1960s and 70s were a blur of expansion. The Filet-O-Fish was invented to draw in Catholics on Fridays. The Big Mac captured the desire for excess. The Egg McMuffin opened up the breakfast market, an entirely new revenue stream. McDonald's became more efficient than Henry Ford's assembly lines. They impacted American agriculture. They changed how chickens were raised, how potatoes were grown. Ray Kroc's obsession with consistency transformed the entire food supply chain of the United States. It went beyond food. It became culture. Ronald McDonald became the second most recognizable figure to American children, second only to Santa Claus. Playgrounds were added, Happy Meals were introduced. Ray understood that if you captured the children, you captured the family. McDonald's became the default dining room of America. Proms, birthdays, first dates. It was always there, bright, clean, safe. Then the empire crossed the oceans. Canada, Europe, Japan, Australia. Critics called it American imperialism. But the lines kept growing. When McDonald's opened in Moscow in 1990, thousands of Russians waited for hours in the snow, not just for a burger, but for a taste of the West. Changes were made for local tastes, but the system remained. The fries in Tokyo had to taste exactly like the fries in Chicago. The golden arches became a symbol more recognized than the Christian cross. Ray Kroc died in 1984. He didn't invent the hamburger. He didn't invent the assembly line. He didn't even invent the name McDonald's. But he invented the corporation. He took a good idea and brutalized it with efficiency until it covered the globe. He was ruthless. He was litigious. He was brilliant. He once said, "If my competitor were drowning, I'd stick a hose in his mouth and turn on the water." That was the spirit that built the empire. Today, McDonald's feeds 1% of the world's population every single day. Think about that. Every day. It is one of the largest real estate owners in the world, a portfolio worth tens of billions of dollars. And it all started with a 52-year-old man driving a car full of milkshakes mixers, refusing to go home. What can we learn from Ray? First, talent is not enough. The McDonald brothers were geniuses. They had the talent, they had the innovation, but they lacked the system for scale. Talent creates art. Systems create empires. Unless you can divorce the product from the creator, you will never truly scale. Second, persistence overrides everything. Ray Kroc wasn't the smartest. He wasn't the youngest. His success didn't come until he was in his senior years. He simply outlasted everyone else. He pushed through failure, debt, and humiliation. As he famously said, "Nothing in this world can take the place of persistence. Genius will not. Education will not. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent." The next time you drive past those golden arches, don't just see a burger place. See the monument to a man who refused to believe his life was over. See the real estate empire disguised as a restaurant. See the power of a system. If you want to decode more stories of business empires and understand how the world is truly built, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next story.